But first, we have to start off with the the unfortunate passing of legendary ring announcer, WWE Hall of Famer Howard Finkel. The news broke earlier today, and the wrestling world is at shock, especially at what happened yesterday with what we're going to get into right after this. But yeah, man. I mean, Howard Finkel, he was always credited as being the first WWE employee, or WWF at the time. He came up with the name WrestleMania, you know? Fink has called or ring announced some of the greatest events in wrestling history. WrestleMania 3, the following contest is scheduled for one fall. I do a terrible Fink, I'm sorry. Yeah, one of his last best things that he did was Survivor Series 2011. That was when Del Rio had Ricardo Rodriguez as his personal ring announcer. So the champ Punk to one up him, he brought out the Fink in a sold out Madison Square Garden. They barely would let him even ring announce. It was a great moment. Brandon, what are your thoughts on the Fink?
I mean, obviously, sad news. Hopefully, shout out to all his friends, family, everyone that knew him. Obviously, he touched a lot of lives. Being in the wrestling business, being in WWE for such a long period of time, he had the long-running streak of being on every single WrestleMania. I don't even remember the last one he was on, but it was, he was up there in the 30s. So that's definitely a streak I don't think anybody is going to break. And, I mean, iconic voice. It was kind of a shame that, at the later part of his career, when he was doing those WrestleMania appearances, they wouldn't even show his face. They would you'd hear the voice. But, we've heard in these past few, months, and I think like the last year, he had a health scare. So we kind of, we were bracing for this. We kind of knew that he was in kind of some poor health, and we are hoping he was going to pull through. But unfortunately, he did not. So, I mean, iconic, legendary, definitely. It's kind of a sad day overall for the wrestling business, but definitely we should look and pay respects to the Fink. And the ring announcer, kind of an overlooked skill, I think, in wrestling right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we're younger, so we grew up with Chimmel and Roberts and Lillian Garcia. But there are people who were very fond of the Fink. We got some fan mail. Jack of all trades. Certain ring announcers help guide an era just like a commentator or interviewer. No one mastered the craft of introduction like the Fink. May he rest in peace, and thank you, Fink, thank you, Fink, thank you, Fink, R.I.P. Finkel. Alright, what else do we have here? Robert Walker. No one said the following contest is scheduled for one fall better than Howard Finkel. Alright. I think we may have one more. Let me go to the Bulletcast DMs here. Yeah, I mean, it's very, very unfortunate that the Fink has left us. In Brightest Day X, graphic designer for our show, he says, R.I.P. Howard Finkel, another piece of my childhood has gone away. Yeah, man, I mean, I feel bad for people who grew up in the 80s. I mean, you watch all these old shows like a Primetime Wrestling, a Tuesday in Texas, or WWF Superstar from the 80s, like, who's really left? Hogan, Roberts, and, that might be it, man.
Yeah, I mean, that time in the 80s, we're going to talk about it with the Snuka documentary, that, there's not a lot of people from that era that are really around anymore, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah, it is. It's terrible. Oh, my God. R.I.P. Fink. May you forever rest in peace.
The following contest is scheduled for one fall.